What is going on, Power Ranger fans? Welcome to Off the Grid, a Power Rangers podcast. I am your host, Jacob Bartley, and this is the show where we talk all things Power Rangers. I know this episode is coming a little late on Tuesday night, and I have, I guess for lack of a better way, marketed that this show would come out at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays, but it is what it is. Things got a little bit pushed back. Just want to move that a little to the left or right, depending on which way you're looking at it. But yes, let's get into it. We're talking one thing today. We are talking Power Rangers #1, the second new issue or new comic book run from the Power Rangers universe and Boom Comics. And this is like we've been kind of following. This is the second part of a new big run that they're doing, where these are going to focus on the Omega Rangers. The Mighty Morphin issues that I covered last week are going to focus on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And if you don't know the difference, I mean, I'm assuming you're familiar if you're tuning into this show. But if you don't know the difference, the Mighty Morphin run is focusing on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, basically the second era of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from the television show that included Rocky, Adam, and Aisha as the red, black, and yellow Rangers. And they have a new Green Ranger roaming around in that story, and they don't know who it is because we have Tommy as the White Ranger and the leader of that team. Now, Omega Rangers are Jason, Trini, and Zach, who told everybody they were going to a peace conference, but instead they have been selected to become Omega Rangers, basically galactic space rangers who are taking out larger threats throughout the galaxy. And these two teams are kind of coming back together and eventually colliding. And we kind of know that it was heading in this direction once they announced the issues. And basically, last week we had, well, I don't know if it came out last week, but I reviewed it last week. We had Mighty Morphin #1 come out and basically just continue this mystery of who the Green Ranger might be. Now, this one comes out and it's the Omega Rangers headed home back to Earth. And so let's jump right into it. We have, they're training up in space on their ship with Zai, and they have one of the beasts that they stopped kind of roaming around the ship. And then we cut back to Earth, which is interesting because we had the Mighty Morphin issue with just the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in it. But now we have Omega Power Rangers #1, which is starting the crossover, which I thought they might do a one issue with just the Omega Rangers, but that was kind of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers #54. That was kind of that one that was just Omega Rangers. So I guess there's nothing to do in between them leaving that issue and then getting to Earth. So it makes sense to kind of jump right into it. So we have the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers chilling on the beach. They're playing Frisbee. They're hanging out. The Omega Rangers show up. Oh, happy reunion. They're all hanging out. And I love this. I love that they take time in these comics to focus on relationships. And we'll talk about a couple of them coming up. But they don't just, conflict, action. It's like they take time to make you realize, hey, this is in the Power Rangers universe. They're going to the juice bar with Stella Bulk and Skull. Alpha's there. Things like that make you feel familiar. But then you have these new character relationships based on and including characters that we already know that we never really saw before. And then we also have the new dynamics of all the action and the mythology and all this stuff. So it's just a perfect blend of new and nostalgic stuff for the Power Rangers fan. So, but they do move quickly, which I appreciate. So they talk, they head to the command center. Omega Rangers are telling everybody what's going on with the Emperils, these aliens who destroy planets, and the Omega Rangers had no chance against these guys. So And they get straight to it, which we've speculated recently, and I talked about this a bunch, that the Omega Rangers are going to have to team up with Draken in order to take on these Emperors. And that was going to create a conflict among them and the Power Rangers and create this civil war. And this is exactly what happens. And I thought it was done beautifully. I loved this issue. And I'll tell you when I don't like an issue. There's been several issues that I said I didn't really like this one, but there's still few interesting things here throughout the issue. But this issue I absolutely loved. I really liked it a lot. So after this, so the Power Rangers find out that Draken's there, or the Omega Rangers find out that Draken's there. And they're like, wait a minute, what? And they say they tell Omega Rangers that must be what he's been running from, is these Imperials. So they're like, we need to go talk to Draken. They go talk to Draken. He immediately knows what they're talking about. That's exactly what he's running from, unless he's playing some type of mind game. But then why would he even go to Earth in the first place? He must have a plan, because we don't know if he was sent to Earth or if he purposely went to Earth to kind of seek protection from the Power Rangers somehow, or try to find a way to get armor again or a coin again. But I think unless they're messing with us, I think this issue further solidifies that Draken is not the Green Ranger, but we'll get to that in a minute. I kind of want to go chronologically through this. So when the Omega Rangers go to talk to Draken, they tell him about the Emperors, and he says there's no hope against them. Tommy shows up, and he's lying. Well, Tommy shows up before that and says he's lying. He's telling you they're dangerous because he wants you to break him out and make you guys think that he's their only hope. Draken says there's no hope anyway, so it doesn't even matter. And the Omega Rangers tell Zordon they need Draken, and Zordon says, no way, he's the closest I've ever seen to the universe being destroyed. I am not letting that risk even come close to happening again. So then, okay, whatever. Then we get this middle part of the issue where they're all just hanging out and talking. There's a mixture of just regular, bonding going on, and a lot of discussions, philosophical discussions, or arguments about what to do about this whole situation. So we see the Rangers show up to the juice bar. They say hi to Ernie. They say hi to Bulk and Skull. They're just hanging out. And one cool thing is we see Rocky and Jason sparring. And this is what I'm talking about, how they took two characters who never crossed. Well, that's not true. I'm trying to remember. Rocky becomes the Blue Zeo Ranger, right? So, okay. So, Jason and Rocky do interact in Zeo Power Rangers. Okay, that's fine. But until Zeo, we didn't see Rocky and Jason interact. So, we get these two guys who are both Red Rangers, and they're sparring, and it's cool. And we see Tommy and Jason sparring all the time. We've seen other things, but we never saw Rocky and Jason sparring, so that's cool. And Rocky tells Jason there's a new Green Ranger, which is interesting. And I'll talk about that more at the end of the issue. And then we cut back to the juice bar, and Zach and Adam are kind of hanging out at the bar and talking about, how about peace and all this stuff. And then Trini and Kimberly, Aisha, Tommy are all chilling at a table, and they start getting into this argument about whether they should break Draken, or whether Draken should be let out to help them. And Tommy's like, hell no, no way. Trini blows up and yells at him and runs and walks away, basically saying they watched him destroy this Emperor, destroy a planet. How could you prevent us from seeking his help? And Tommy's like, no way, we're not risking the entire universe, Draken doing what he did again in order to stop these Emperors, which is kind of weird because the Emperors could lead to the destruction of the galaxy. What if the Emperors come to Earth? So you got this kind of conflict, and I will say, I keep calling it a civil war, and because it reminds me of the Marvel Civil War. And with that situation, whether it's the comics or the movie, you had to create a believable conflict. And this is a very believable conflict. I love what they did here to create this believable conflict. And it's really creating which side is right type of situation. And I haven't really decided myself, to be honest. But so we go back to Jason and Rocky sparring, and they get into this conversation about being the Red Ranger and how when Jason was the Red Ranger, he was the leader. Now he's the Red Ranger of the Omega Rangers, and he's the Red leader. When they did that little swap where they all changed colors, and Jason, Trini, and Zach were like different color Rangers. Trini was the Red Ranger. She just instantly became the leader, and Rocky feels insecure because he's the Red Ranger, and he's not a leader. Tommy's a leader. But that reminds me of how on the show, and I believe it happens in the comics as well. No. We don't see it in the comics because we never get to Jason and Tommy being on the same team while Tommy's the White Ranger. But in the show, they just make Tommy the leader right away and don't even mention Jason or anything like that. And it just reminds me of that, and that always annoyed me. So it's funny how Tommy's instantly the leader, even though, and that the Red Ranger becomes a side ranger, not a side ranger, but goes from leader to just another one of the Rangers instantly once the White Ranger shows up, which has always been interesting to me. But Jason basically tells him that, hey, look, no matter what, you're sacrificing your life to protect Earth, so that's still honorable. You don't have to be a leader to be to be thanked for what you're doing. So that kind of makes him feel better. And they kind of talk about their fighting techniques and all that stuff. And so we see everybody walking together, and they say, all right, we're going to go back to the ship, and they say bye. And I loved this moment. So we have this reunion, these happy times, whatever. And then immediately Zach says, so are we going to go break Draken out or what? And I was like, damn, that's dope, because they're getting straight to the point. They're not really wasting any time while still giving us these moments between the team and all that stuff. So we get straight to it with the Omega Rangers breaking into the command center, and we get this little stealth mission, these few pages of this stealth mission, which I thought was really cool. I love the way they were doing that, where they had to be quiet and they were kind of jumping around like Mission Impossible type stuff. I thought that was really cool. So they get to Draken, they let him out, and I love some of this dialogue here where Draken's like, you're always been my favorite, Jason, and telling him things like that. And they break him out, and this was funny to me. He says, well, Draken's like, hey, let's go, we can hide from the Emperors, we can go hide away, I know a place, well, they'll never find us. And Jason's like, nope, we're gonna go find them and take them out, you're gonna help us. And he says, welcome to the Omega Rangers, which there's a difference between forcing a villain to help you because you need his help and having him be a part of the team, which is basically what they're doing. But it makes for a cool idea here, and it makes the last shot of the issue awesome, because you're like, damn, okay, he's part of the Omega Rangers, but he doesn't have a coin yet, or does he? We don't know. But one of the biggest parts of this issue is Alpha tries to stop them before they escape, and Draken just straight up clocks him, and Jason immediately grabs him and is like, no, don't ever do that. And Alpha's all messed up, but he's not dead, obviously. He just was a little damaged, and Draken even says he's a robot. He's going to be fine. And as they're leaving, Zordon kind of sees them, and Jason's like, oh, Alpha will be fine, don't worry. And he tells him we're taking Draken, and Zordon basically threatens him and says, this is against everything we stand for. If you do this, then I'll use everything that I can to stop you. And that was like the most threatening I'd ever seen Zordon, because he's always like the peaceful guy trying to do the smart thing, but that was like the most threatening and intimidating I've ever seen Zordon. And Jason, they teleport out and Jason says, I'm sorry. So we're getting the full out Civil War, because the regular Power Rangers are never going to forgive them for breaking into the command center, breaking out Draken, attacking Alpha, and just dipping out like that. I have a hard time believing that they're going to forgive them. And it's going to go down. There's definitely going to be this battle. Now, one thing before we get to the last shot is they still haven't told us who the new Green Ranger is. Draken was one of the options. They talk about the new Green Ranger in this issue when Rocky tells Jason. Is Draken still a possibility? Yes, but I highly doubt it. But if they kind of pull a twist on us, and because they kind of made it seem that in this conflict the Green Ranger was going to be fighting with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But if somehow Draken is the new Green Ranger, and this is probably part of his plan, to go to Earth, have Grace give him the green power coin, and then he gets out of there somehow, and now he has the green power coin. It would be kind of cool if the Green Ranger is now part of the Omega Rangers, but I still don't think that's the case. I think somehow Draken is gonna get an Omega Ranger suit, because now he's part of the Omega Rangers. So I think somehow, and maybe they give him the teal one that girl had. I don't know what happened with her power coin or whatever the Omega Rangers use. So maybe he'll get that. But I still, my money's still on Matt being the Green Ranger back on Earth and still fighting with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But then you'd have 6-on-4, but maybe you count Zai as being part of the Omega Rangers as well. But yeah, you had a lot going on in this issue. I thought it was great, and it set up the conflict going forward amazingly, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty damn amazing. I'm curious what you guys thought. What did you think of the issue? Let me know in the comment section. That is going to do it for this episode of Off the Grid, a Power Rangers podcast. Again, my name is Jacob Bartley, and you can check me out here every week on Tuesdays for a new episode of Off the Grid, where I'm most likely reviewing a comic, because it is the most steady thing going on in Power Rangers right now. But I do talk the television shows, movie news, movies when we get them, toys, things like that. So follow Off the Grid and subscribe if you have not already. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. Until then, may the power protect you.